So, in our first lesson, we're going to learn about the Indian Child Welfare Act. This act was passed in 1978. My name is Chris Lamar. I'm here in Paiute. I'm a member of the Susanville Indian Rancheria. I graduated from UC Berkeley with a degree in Native Studies and from law school at CU Boulder. I've been an ethnic studies instructor and taught federal Indian law. I've been an expert for
Well, my name is Vavila Blossoming Bear. I'm a descendant of the Choctaw Nation, and my people are also Irish. And I currently serve as the tribal liaison for the California Interagency Council on Homelessness. I also train new social workers on the Indian Child Welfare Act and serve as an ICWA expert in select Native court cases for tribes. Okay, so let's get started on the topic of what ICWA is, what the Indian Child Welfare Act includes. The Indian Child Welfare Act includes special protections for Native American children, families, and tribes in cases in which there's a petitioner that wants to remove a Native American child, or in which there's a threat to remove a Native American child. And then includes several provisions to help protect children, family, and tribes. One of those is active efforts. Active efforts means that, when there's a petitioner, for example, if it's the county, they always have to provide some type of services to the clients to help mitigate a high level of risk to children and families to preserve the families. However, with Native American families, in cases in which ICWA applies, they have to go above and beyond this. And this means working in collaboration with the tribe, provided the tribe is involved, or other Native American service providers. It includes providing extra efforts. This could mean giving parents rides to services. It could mean a variety of things depending on the context of the case. It also means there's going back to the provisions of ICWA, there's a higher standard for removing Native American children from their parents. There has to be serious physical and or emotional harm that is placing the child at risk in the home, and the petitioner has to have had already made active efforts, and those efforts failed in order to remove the child legally. And there has to be a specialized expert witness in ICWA court cases. Before children can be removed, there has to be a culturally appropriate assessment that takes into account the cultural traditions of the tribe, child rearing customs of the tribe, and any interventions that are culturally appropriate that can mitigate that risk. So let's talk about the importance of cultural preservation. And before I do that, I suggest you just take a moment to consider, you've grown up in a particular culture your whole life. You have your belief system, your values. Perhaps you have spiritual values or religious values. You have your family, your community, whatever that looks like. You have your style of dress, your ways of being and speaking. And then suddenly an invader comes in and, murders most of the people, kidnaps you, and now you're not allowed to be that anymore. I mean, it's a situation that breaks humans. Um, with Native Americans in particular, what we know is that it is critical that they receive services and supports that are culturally appropriate. And we know this because if we look at outcomes of individuals, of natives who receive services that are not culturally appropriate versus those that are culturally appropriate, there will be worse outcomes with those that are not culturally appropriate. So, what that means in the child welfare system is you take a Native American family, you give them just standard, what they call um, cookie box cutter services, something you apply to everyone. Okay, do this, do that, do this, and it's all services with a Euro American value system. They're much less likely to benefit and to go through the motions to try to get their child back. But if you give them services that are meaningful, and with Native American culture and services, we are very resonated in spiritual traditions and ancestral traditions, and you connect them with that, and it stays with them, and it's meaningful, and it's critical for the development or improvement of coping mechanisms, connection to community, and support of the children. So many people, when they talk about the creation of ICWA, they'll talk about things in the 70s. I'm going to take it back a bit further because there's critical cultural context that we need to understand. So I'm taking it back. We're going to go to the 1100s with the doctrine of discovery. And this is when the church said that Christian monarchs could go into any lands they wanted of non Christians. They could do whatever they wanted with the people, steal the land and the riches. And as a result of that, we saw the colonization of the indigenous all around the world, including America. And this was a pervading attitude in America. In America, we saw that Native Americans were viewed as inferior, as savages, and that the only possible way to save them was to turn them into white Christians. And so, for generations, there was genocide and kidnapping of the children. And they would take children sometimes in the middle of the night and take them hundreds of miles away from their home, not tell the parents where they were going, not allow any connection with the parents or the community. And they would force the children to appear and behave like white Christian children. And literally, the culture was beat out of them. You can imagine what impact that would have on a child. And this impacted, I believe one of the latest estimates I saw was 84% of the Native American population. And this is those that survived the genocide, right? Because we know many children died due to being murdered or to disease. So the rest of them, they kidnapped and they tried to make them white Christians and abuse them. And this, not only did it disconnect them from their community and culture, but it also introduced dysfunctional patterns of behavior into these individuals who would later have children. When time is passing, generations are passing with these types of practices and attitudes occurring where, people are just removing Native Americans because they are Native American and they're inferior and they need to become white Christians in order to be saved. There are government efforts that supported this. Save the Native children and adopt them to white families so they could be white Christians. Around the time of the 60s and 70s, we saw these civil rights movements, and the public became more sympathetic to the Native American cause and, sympathetic to the plight. And so at that time, they had said that there were higher disparities of Native American children being removed from their homes than their white counterparts. I believe the number was up to 35% at the time. And so the Indian Child Welfare Act passed with the support and also with the support of the civil rights movement and the American Indian movement, all of the Native Americans who worked hard to make this issue public, and also because the public and the legislators were more sympathetic at the time.